I'm married to my father and I have 3 children with him. I was raised by my grandmother who was so kind, so sweet, and she gave me virtually everything that I had ever wanted. When I turned 6 years old, Grandma told me that my mother had passed away a few days after I was born. So when I turned 8 years, my comprehension of thoughts and ideas have developed quite well. So I started asking Grandma about the whereabouts of my dad. Anytime that I ask that question, Grandma would either ignore me, and on a few occasions, she would tell me that the time wasn't right and she was going to tell me just when the time was right. My curiosity about who my dad was began to grow wider and wider. So because Grandma wasn't giving me answers to my questions, I decided to find some answers to my questions from my uncles and my aunties. So when I was about 11 years, I asked my uncles, my aunties, who my dad was, but surprisingly, none of them knew who my dad was. Fortunately, when I was about 14 years old, my grandma called me one evening and told me that it was about time that she told me who my dad was. In fact, that evening I was so happy because I felt that my identity or who my dad was going to be revealed to me. Then Grandma told me that the reason for which she didn't want to tell me about my dad was that my dad also died a year after I was born and she didn't want me to be sad, so that was why she concealed that information from me. That evening, I cried and cried and cried, and Grandma also cried with me. After that evening, I promised myself that I wasn't going to ever ask Grandma about my mom and my dad ever again because I didn't want her to be sad. Besides, Grandma gave me virtually everything that I had ever wanted, and she even gave me things that I didn't even ask for. So when I got to senior high school, I wrote my exams and I passed with flying colors. In fact, I did so well. But before then, I applied to other universities outside our country, and fortunately, I got a scholarship to study in the United States of America. When the good news came, I told Grandma about it, but she wasn't so happy about it and she didn't want me to go. I had to explain to her that I had wanted to try new things and explore new environments. So she eventually agreed and allowed me to go to the United States. When I got to the United States in my first year, I made friends from all over the place. I made friends from everywhere that I could ever imagine, but I particularly became very close to 2 ladies in my department and really had so much fun together on campus. But when I got to my final year, I got a terrible news from home that Grandma had passed away. In fact, I was so sad. I was devastated because Grandma was my rock. She was my world. She was my everything. I quickly made arrangements to travel back home. In fact, I traveled back to Africa where I come from in order to have Grandma buried. After the funeral rites, my uncles told me that Grandma had left me some properties and some other things for me. So they were ready to give me the properties and also hand over the documentation to the properties to me and of course, go and show me where the properties were located. In fact, I wasn't really interested in any properties because at that moment, all I thought about was Grandma and why she had to leave me, especially when I needed her the most. After the funeral rites, I went back to the United States in order to have my education completed. After my graduation, I got a very good job and started working. So myself and the other 2 ladies that I got very close to in my department, we traveled to so many beautiful places across the world. We traveled to Kenya, South Africa, and then we decided to travel to Dubai. Then, bam, that was where my entire life changed. Please kindly subscribe and help the channel grow. I really appreciate your love and your support. Now let's move on to the story. When we got to Dubai, we had so much fun. We visited so many beautiful places, and then in one of the hotel lobbies, I met a fine middle-aged man who was probably in his late 40s. The moment I set eyes on this man, it felt as though I have known him my entire life. He looked at me, I looked at him, and he asked me if I had few minutes to spare so that we could talk. So we really talked for a very long time. Later, we both found out that we're both living in the United States, which means that when the vacation was over in Dubai, meeting each other wasn't going to be a problem. And to even make it much better, we both discovered that we both come from Africa and from the same country. So long story short, when the vacation was over, we went back to the United States and we got talking. And like they say, one thing led to the other and we got married. And now we have 3 amazing, beautiful children. Now, all these years, my uncles and my aunties never got the opportunity to meet my husband and my children in person because we had our wedding in the United States and none of them could attend the wedding because of documentation issues. So we just sent photos of our weddings to them. Everything was going on really well until one of my uncles told me to try as much as possible to come home so that he could hand over the properties that Grandma had left for me. This time around, I was compelled to travel back home to Africa because I felt this trip would give me the opportunity for my uncles and my aunties to meet my children since they've not met them in person since I had them. So this year, I went back to Africa with my beautiful children. When we got home, my uncles and my aunties were very happy to see me and my children. My husband, however, couldn't come with us because he had a very important business trip to embark on. Then one beautiful morning, one of my uncles brought a very big box and handed it over to me and told me that that box contained everything that Grandma had left for me. I was really curious to find out what Grandma left for me, so I quickly opened the box and oh my God, what I saw in the box made my heart sink so deep. I became so numb and completely frozen by what I saw. It was like my entire body had been soaked in deep, cold water. I saw photos of the man I called my husband, and though he was relatively very young in the photos, I could immediately recognize him. In some of the photos, he was standing by my mother. So many times, Grandma has shown me photos of my mom, so I could easily recognize her face anywhere that I saw it. Now, there was another letter that was underneath the box, so I quickly reached out for it because it had my name boldly written on it. So I quickly reached out for it and opened it with alacrity. Oh my God. When I read the letter, I was dead inside. In this letter, Grandma explained that my mom and my dad were in a relationship while they were in the university. Unfortunately, my mom became pregnant with me, so she had to stop her education in the final year in order to have me. Unfortunately, a few days after I was born, my mom sadly died. This, however, infuriated Grandma so much, so she became so bitter and she did everything possible to prevent my dad from seeing me. The letter went on to explain that my dad made several attempts to see me, but Grandma never gave him the opportunity to do so. Then it dawned on me that the man that I have been living with all these years as my husband is also my biological father. Oh my God. Why would the universe give me my own father as my husband? With all the men in the world, why would the universe give me my own father as my husband? Those were some of the questions that were raging in my head as I sat by the box, and all I did was to weep and weep and weep. Now, I didn't know what to do at this point. I didn't know whether to ask my uncles whether they knew all about this or to keep all this news to myself. I later on gathered the courage to ask my uncle who gave the box to me, and he told me that he had no idea what the box contained because he promised Grandma that he was never going to open the box and he will hand over the box to me personally, which means that my uncles did not even know what the box contained. At this moment, the realization I had was that I was the only one who is now in the known about who my dad really is. Now my question is, I am in Africa with my children who happen to be my siblings as well. And I am the only one who knows that the man I call my husband is also my biological father. Should I keep the news all to myself? Go back to the United States and pretend nothing had happened so that I can continue with my marriage and my life with this man? Or should I disclose the news to my husband who is now my father so that we can divorce and go our separate ways? What should I do? What should I really do? Because I'm so confused. What should I do? What should I really do? Because I'm so confused at this moment. Please, kindly hit the subscribe button and help the channel grow. I do really appreciate you. Now, thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to share, comment, and turn on your notification for more videos. See you in the next video. Bye.